This is Carrie, and you're listening to Leading with Heart, where we talk about all things leadership and doing the hard right thing. So, welcome and thanks for being here. In this episode, I thought it would be fun if we sort of dissect, figuratively, of course, the anatomy of a leader. You know, there has been so much on this, and I've mentioned this before. My first mentor was a behavioral scientist. He was from Notre Dame University, and he had a management system using the principles of behavioral psychology that always worked. It always got the desired results. And Chris would not talk about leadership. If he couldn't see it or feel it or measure it, he did not want to talk about it. So what's interesting about that is, you know, I spent the first, almost 10 years of my leadership journey not talking about leadership. And yet, on the other side, I know this is something that fascinates people. There are books and so many things. And, there's different ways to study leadership. And to put it into basically two categories, when we study leadership, we can either look at the things leaders do, or we can look at who leaders are. It is a very tricky thing to get your arms around. And because of that, kind of anything's up for grabs. It's very disturbing from a scientific perspective how little there really is to hold on to. Another thing that we tend to do is we look at people who we all kind of agree were great leaders, and we look at either who they were or what they did. So given that it's pretty much a crapshoot, I've got a theory. No, there are some things we've seen consistently as we look at this and as we look at leadership and as we understand more about psychology and the brain and human behavior. So some things make more sense than others. How I want to approach leadership with you today is really from a tactical standpoint. So from the standpoint of, hey, I want to be the best leader I can be. What do I need to do? Okay, that's what I figure is most useful to you. On that, there are some things that I think are pretty much proven that we know when you have these things, you're more effective. So let's focus on that, shall we? And I don't necessarily want to talk about how they get there, why they get there, the specific brain mechanisms, because, in that sense, I'm going to be more like a behaviorist. I'm going to say, look, if you do this, this works. So let's focus on that. The other thing I think would be helpful for you to understand about me as I'm talking about this is I'm coming at this as a scientific perspective, from a human resources perspective, and also from a bit of a spiritual perspective, and really from a huge spiritualist perspective. And why that's important is when it comes to certain ways we address our failings as leaders, I think that, the faith perspective offers the best way to make continuous improvement without falling into despair and nihilism. So, keeping it light, right? So let's make this a little more tactical so you guys understand what the heck I'm talking about. When I look at leadership, the full scope of leadership, there are some requirements. There's some aspects that are important. So let's discuss that. There's mindset. Having a growth mindset, having a mindset orientation that you are a leader. Critical. It's a non-negotiable. If you're going to be a leader, you have to believe you can be a leader. You have to be willing to step into that role. Character. Character is what we're going to be talking about most today. And it's something that we don't often talk about in this truth is relative era that we're in. But character is a big differentiator for leaders. You need to have the mindset, you need to have character, you need to have vision. A leader without vision is a really good manager, and people are not inspired. They will not lay down their lives and die for a great manager unless that person's also a great leader. Mental toughness. You might call this grit, you might call this discipline. A great leader is willing to put in the work it takes to be a great leader, and they're willing to roll with the punches and keep going after failures, after betrayals, after the bad stuff happens. Having the mental toughness to keep going is an integral part of being a great leader. Another, and this is not a sexy one, but having metrics and systems. A great leader is always measuring their performance and the performance of their team. You're always trying to do better than you did yesterday. You're not necessarily compete. Sometimes you are competing with someone on the outside. Often you're competing with yesterday you, but you are keeping track. You're measuring. If you don't measure it, you're not going to get improvement. A faith perspective. Again, believing that being a great leader is important, but not placing all your value as a human on being a great leader. So having perspective, having something else in your life that's important, so that when times are bad, you draw on that as strength. A great leader is not, you've seen people who lose their jobs and end their lives after losing a job, or after being, losing their position, losing the society's esteem. A great leader puts their worth in something bigger than themselves, and they have other things in their life besides their leadership. That's what enables them to be great. When you are more worried about your position and how people are viewing you, you will instantly not be able to be a great leader. You will be too focused on people pleasing. And the last is, I didn't know what else to call this, but having grace. Having grace for your followers. And really with that is, you could also call it caring for people. Genuinely caring for the people you're influencing and wanting the best for them. And also understanding they're human. And understanding that they're going to fall, they're going to stumble, they're going to make mistakes. They may hurt you sometimes, they may hurt each other. And caring enough about them to keep investing in them, even when they fail, even when they fall, even when they're ugly. Just understanding that humans, and again, this comes into the faith perspective, understanding that humans are not naturally good and naturally wonderful creatures who do the right thing if given enough. Understanding that we're greedy, selfish, self-centered creatures, and we need to try really hard to overcome that. And sometimes we don't do a good job of it. Understanding, having grace for people being people, makes you a leader that people would lay down their lives for. So let's talk about character. Character is something I find people gloss over because I think nobody wants to admit that they have character problems. I think if there's any area of society where there's still shame left and it's decreasing, it's in that area of character. What is character? Character is that part of you that does the right thing even when nobody's looking. Your integrity, your honesty, your willingness to do the hard right thing, your willingness to do the right thing when the cutting corners or cheating would be easier. When we have a great leader, we don't think of them as somebody who cheats or somebody who lies or somebody who will do a dirty deal. And we look up to those people. We look up to those people even if they aren't getting ahead. If we have two people and one of them is always doing the right thing and the cheater and the scoundrel is the one who has the esteem, we know the story that's written in our psyches is that eventually the cheater gets it in the end. We don't cheer for the cheater. And I think we all know people who say, well, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. And we laugh about that. But the reality is that every leader I've ever met feels on some little corner of their soul like maybe they're not qualified to be a leader. And to the extent that your character needs shoring up, that makes it that much harder to get over that sense of being an imposter. We all have character flaws, and we don't always show them to the world, so it's not apparent that we all have character flaws. We all have areas where we people please instead of being rigorously honest. Maybe we tell our bosses what they want to hear versus what they need to hear. Maybe we have a hard time telling our subordinates that they need to improve. A lot of our character flaws have to do with honesty, and it comes out of a need to be praised and accepted by people. So that is something almost every leader struggles with at some point in their journey as a human being. The struggle to be honest. Selfishness and self-centeredness is another one that a lot of us struggle with. It's easier for some than others. Sometimes we like to, we can easily We don't need to take credit for other people's work. Some people do. Some people say they don't take credit for other people's work, but they make it very obvious that they were instrumental in the other people's work that they're not taking credit for. And I think we've all run into those people. Gossip. Gossip is another character flaw that a lot of people have. And you know, as you become higher up the leadership chain, gossip is something that can be disguised as, you know, talking about employees for their own good or wanting to know what's going on, being in the know. But if you're being in the know for reasons other than noble, then it's a character flaw. Another character flaw is pride. You know, wanting to be seen as, you know, important and essential and a critical player. You know, it's all character flaws, and it's really hard to admit to anybody that you have these. You know, this is one reason why coaching and mentoring is such an important thing if you have somebody who can be really honest with. Because let me tell you something you may not know about character flaws is they are like cockroaches. And the more you expose them to the light, the more they'll start to run away. So it's not something, you know, I've seen some people deal with these character flaws by having this public confessions to everybody who knows them. You know, I don't recommend that, especially as a leader who may be in a position of influence. You don't necessarily want to air your dirty laundry in front of everybody, but you do need to always be working on your character. And the thing with character, the beautiful thing about it is all it takes is willingness. It takes willingness for you to confront that part of your character that you know isn't where it should be, and to make incremental improvements every day. You know, if you have a problem telling the truth, if you tend to lie, then maybe you can't be 100% honest tomorrow. I mean, that's not maybe reasonable. Maybe you just stop talking if you're gonna lie. So instead of telling the truth, maybe you just tell one last lie tomorrow. And you know, it sounds funny if honesty isn't something you struggle with, but if it is, I think you're understanding what I'm saying. The thing with character issues as a leader, if you're this far in your journey that you are a leader, you've done a very good job of disguising your character flaws, most likely. And again, I can say this with confidence because this is a human condition. This is not something that's wrong with you in particular. Realizing that it takes a lot of the imposter syndrome out. You know, we're all these works in progress. We all have our signature sin, and our whole life is a journey of getting help with it and overcoming it so that we don't hurt other people with what we do. So again, it's probably not the best thing to go to your boss and go, yeah, I have this huge lying issue, or yeah, I really need to tell you the truth about what I think about you, or I've been padding my expense report and I need to come clean. I'm not saying that. You know, I'm saying if you have, you know, a little bit of greed in you, or a little bit of pride, or a little bit of dishonesty. Maybe you're the kind of person who does coups. Maybe you're the kind of leader who undermines others, and you know you do it, but maybe everybody else doesn't, because maybe you're really good at it. And maybe you undermine others by under the guise of helping the company, that you are showing the weaknesses of other people in charge. But really, you're pulling a coup so that you can be more powerful. Again, this may sound strange, but you know, as we grow and develop into leaders, if we are not rigorously honest about confronting the character flaws that will take us out, then we will not be as successful. So we're going to do a little bit of work on this. We are going to be very determined detectives of ourselves. And what you can do is just simply go through some major life events that you've had, that some have turned out well, some have maybe not turned out well for you, and think about, what was my part in this calamity? If it was a calamity, what was my part in this major life drama that happened? And look at a couple of them and see if you notice a pattern of where you don't show up as the hero that you want to show up as, because that's the other thing, we all want to be the hero of our story. And it's very hard coaching people on this, because we're also very good at rewriting the story after the fact so that we were the hero. So instead of pulling a pride induced coup, we will rewrite the story so that we saved a company from a terrible leader. Instead of being an insatiable people pleaser and really never telling people the info they needed to hear to really grow, we just told ourselves we had a super soft heart. We can rewrite that negative and make it into good. And that's, I get that sometimes we have to do that outwardly, but inwardly is the work we want to do. So where are you prideful? Where are you angry? Where are you greedy? Where have you been less than honest? Where have you been untruthful? Where have you been deceitful? And again, this is for you and you only. You look at that, because these are the things that will take you out. And they may take you out personally, they may take you out professionally, they may just take you out by keeping you in prisons of imposter syndrome. Now, the good news is, again, you look at them, you shed light on them. What you have been does not need to be who you are going forward. And that is probably the greatest joy out of going through this exercise, is it takes the victim out of it, because you can say, wow, I chose to lie here because I was afraid that if I was honest, this would happen, so I chose to lie, and that happened. So you don't know what would have happened if you would have made another choice. So you go through, you write, you find the pattern, and then you start making different choices. And just a little bit each day, a little bit. So, maybe it's not flattering your boss as much. Maybe it's choosing to remain silent. Maybe it's not falling all over yourself to say you think an idea is great when you don't. That's maybe your incremental progress. Maybe it's, instead of staying quiet and not saying anything, maybe it's choosing to be the lone voice of dissent in the meeting, even though it's scary. Maybe by choosing to say your truth, and even softly. You might be surprised at how many other people feel that way, and we're just waiting for someone else to go first. So you can chart your own character improvement plan. What is it you really need to work on? Maybe it's selfishness. Maybe you are the kind of person who values your own time and money more than somebody else's well-being or development. And maybe that's entrenched in you. And hey, I guess I need to say, the fact that these are there, most of these are there for really good reasons. I'm not saying they're not, Maybe you are jealous of your time and money because you've been used, abused, burned, stolen from. Totally get it. Most of these character things that we're uncovering are there because they served us. They either got us something we wanted, or they helped us avoid something we didn't want. A lot of times it has been being victimized or abused by somebody else. And when that's the case, these feel like very safe, required ways of operating in the world. We feel like we have to protect ourselves because nobody else is going to. If that means we have to lie to get ahead, then that's how the world is. And you know what? That is how the world is. The world does seem to honor bad behavior. Cheaters do win a lot of the time. Liars get away with it. That happens. And yet, I think you know as well as I do that may be how it is, but that's not how it's supposed to be, right? I mean, we feel that. We feel that it's not okay that the liar gets ahead. It's not fair. We know it's not good that cheaters win. Even if it does, we know that if we choose to do the wrong thing to win, we're not really winning. We know that. So character, true character comes from realizing that and saying, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing anyway. Even if I could even if I could get more money by cheating, I'm going to be honest and get as much as is due me. That's where some of the faith comes in. The faith that you're going to be okay if you do the right thing. Even if you're not okay, you're going to be okay. Displaying character and acting with character means you're choosing to be someone you can trust and someone you can be proud of. And when you start turning into that person that you trust and that you're proud of and that you believe in, man, all the rest starts falling into place. The mindset, the mental toughness, the vision, everything else about being a leader, the way you interact with people. When you start cleaning the inside of your house and you're shining up your character and you're behaving like a hero that you admire, no amount of faking can take that place. Character is essential to leadership. It's essential to having meaningful relationships because, again, we can all have fake relationships. I mean, I think we've all had relationships, either work or personal, where we're in them and we got in them by pretending to be someone we're not. Then you're trapped in this relationship that you're not even happy in because you know who you are deep down. And even if you've forgotten or it feels like you've forgotten who you are, that unrest will remind you, this is not who I am. Who I am is someone who wants to tell the truth. Who I am is someone who wants people to like me for who I really am, not for who I'm pretending to be. And, that journey of becoming the person who you've been pretending to be, once you realize, wow, I really am that person, it's just a few little good decisions every day turns you into that person. Choosing to be honest. Choosing not to try to make yourself look better than other people. Choosing to be a team player. Choosing to be genuinely happy for someone who has more than you do. All those little things add up, and all of a sudden, you're who you've been pretending to be. And then you're ready to step into that leadership role and really do it justice. Because until then, you're not going to love it. You're not going to be that good at it. It's going to be a source of stress and fear. And you're going to be feeling like you're fighting to protect something all the time when you're an inauthentic leader. Being an authentic leader means you know that you're vulnerable. But from that vulnerability comes so much strength, because even though you know you're vulnerable, you're still putting it on the line. And you think of all the leaders who you really admire, whether they be sports figures. I don't know how many political figures there are. there must be some. People in your life, those everyday heroes, you know what they all have in common? I'll bet you, I bet you can't think of a single one who doesn't have integrity and character, and who maybe has even sacrificed a win at the expense of doing the right thing. Think of those people and think, is that who you want to be? Or do you want to be the cheater? Do you want to be the liar? Do you want to be the imposter? I mean, I think we all have enough masks. We know what it's like to be the imposter, but we might not know what it's like to be the person with character. It's funny because as I went through this journey and I learned how to tell the truth and not try to say what people wanted me to say, having been bullied like mercilessly as a teen and growing up, I understand what it's like to know I do not want to stick out. I do not want anyone's attention, and I do not want anyone to dislike me, because I know what it's like to be ostracized, shunned, abused, bullied. So I'm not going to do anything to bring that on. But that desperation of always trying to figure out what it is you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be, that is painful. And not being true to yourself is more painful than being attacked for being true to yourself. And waking up one day and not realizing who I was, because I didn't know, because I'd been pretending for so long. All I knew was the pretense. I didn't know who I really was. That is a dark, scary, hard place. It is way... now I run into conflict. I say things that people don't like and they get mad at me, and sometimes I get banned from Facebook for a week or longer. But that's okay. I don't maybe have as many people in my life, but the ones who are in my life are people who know me. Now people tell me I'm honest, I'm a straight shooter. When I was in my 20s, I was not accused of being a straight shooter. I was fun, I was smart, I was successful. Honest was not one of the top things people said about me. Being a straight shooter was not one of the things people said about me. It is now, and I love it. I love that people say it, even when people act like, wow, I can't believe you said that, that's so honest. now it takes me aback because I'm like, what did I say that was so crazy honest? I have to look back and say, what was so crazy about that? Because, now I know I just tell the truth. It's a lot easier to keep your story straight too when you're just telling the truth. So character. As a leader, it's important to do a character inventory. Figure out where you are, how are you doing on character? Where do you need to get better? And look at the seven deadlies to start. It's a really good place to start. So where are you envious? Where are you wrathful? Where are you gluttonous? Where are you lustful? Where are you prideful? Those things are probably probably if you have character, issues, it's going to be there. I mean, it's a human condition. Start there. And don't like do a New Year's resolution and say, I'm going to be perfect starting tomorrow. That is not how it works. You start by acknowledging, wow, these little defects are here, and you know what? They've probably contributed to my success, but they're holding me back from stepping into my true success. So which ones am I willing to not have anymore? You start there. Are you willing to give any up? Are you willing to give up a little bit of perfectionism? Because it makes you be mean to people and mean to yourself and judgmental. Are you willing to give up a little bit of fear? Are you willing to give up some anger, some righteous anger? Maybe you don't know how to give it up, but are you willing to not have that? That's the first thing you need to do. Once you become willing, it all unfolds from there, and your character will start improving. And just figure out little things you can do every day, and before you know it, you will be that person you've been pretending to be. So that's character. And I've enjoyed talking about this. If you have any questions, please email Carrie@carriemaldonado.com or leave a message, leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys, and if there's anything you really want to hear about next time, let me know. This has been Leading with Heart, where we talk about doing the hard right things, and I'll see you next time.